The curious first conversation ever held requires explanations. At this point in creation, the god Shu, Tenut, representing life, and the concept of Mayat are within Atum, existing as part of him. In order for Atum to separate himself from infinite waters and enjoy an independent existence, life takes position as his consciousness, initiating his heartbeats as if resuscitating him from death. His heart beating and his hands now active, Atum nevertheless remains unconscious until he inhales Mayat Tanuf, taking her into his body as the breath of life to awaken him to full consciousness, as if passing from death into a coma and then awakening from the dreamlike state. Atum becomes fully conscious and able to act, roused from his dormant, inert state by the power of breath, heartbeat, and mind. Not fully controlled of his action, Atum takes advantage of his independence to subtract the waters of Nun from him and become the remainder. This, the first significant matter in the universe. Mayat Isfet. Mayat and Isfet. Mayat, whether as a goddess, a concept, or indeed as a form of oh my god, how can I say her? Tefnut, I'm sorry, plays a key role in the Egyptian conception of the universe. As a concept, Mayat represented the correct balance between order and disorder. They don't teach this in school, do they? While also encompassing justice and right action. The Egyptians acknowledged that disorder, Isfet, could ever be eradicated, nor should it be, for it was part of creation, necessary to its correct functioning. Isfet had been an integral part of the cosmos since the beginning of time. It was, however, not made to the Creator, and he disassociated himself from the Isfets performed by humans. I made every man like his fellow. I did not command that they do Isfet. It is their heart that destroyed what I have laid out. That came from Coffin Text 1160. So 1160 could be significant. The aim of every living being, from the gods to the pharaohs and mankind, was to ensure that order, Mayat, was not overtaken by disorder, Isfet. To the Egyptian, Mayat premeditated all things, and those who broke its law were punished. Whether they knew it, whether they knew of them or not, the god even lived on, whether they knew. Okay, I'm sorry. The Egyptian Mayat premeditated all things, and those who broke its laws were punished, whether they knew it or not. The gods even lived on Mayat, referring to it as their beard, food, and drink. When personified, Mayat was a goddess wearing a tall feather on her head, the hieroglyphic symbol for Mayat, perhaps due to her connection with Tefnut. Mayat is cited as a daughter of Re Atum and is sometimes described as the consort of the god Thoth. Keep stopping my video. Represented by the Egyptian as the mound of creation itself, personified as god Tatennin, was perhaps the inspiration behind the pyramid form in variations of creation myth, the sacred Buno bird, an aspect of Atum. Ooh. Alright, got it. Arrives to perch on his mound, and its cries is the first sound of existence. Returning to our narrative, the sun's shoe within Atum now expands, as if Atum is a balloon filling with air. It is in the body of the great self-developing God, Atum, that I have developed. It is his feet that I have grown, in his arms that I have developed, in his limb that I have made a void. Coffin text 75. Atum now evolves into the created world, taking form as the desires. This self-creating power is frequently celebrated in Egyptian spells. It is through my Atum effectiveness that I brought about my body. I am the one who made me. It was as I wish, according to my heart, that I built myself. Coffin text 7:14. Hail Atum, who made the sky, who created what exists, who merged as land, who created seed, Lord of what is, who gave birth to God's great God, self-developing. This came from the Book of the Dead, spelled 79. These freaking scammers, whoever's calling me, I don't answer my phone, so stop. Okay? Shu and Tanuf now became, even when I block you, you still call me. What is wrong with you? With the same number. The first generation of gods, Shu and Tefnut, now become separate from Atum, rejected from his body as divine fluid through his sneezing, spitting, or masturbating, depending on the variant of the myth. They remain within the confines of his expanding shape, stuck in the balloon of this created world. However, despite now being detached, Shu and Tefnut each lack their own life force, remaining dependent in their creator for their survival. To remedy this, just as they in the form of life and Mayat had given Atum the power necessary to separate from Nun, Atum now embraces his twin children and passes his Ka, or life force, to them, allowing them full freedom of movement and existence. As an independent god, Tefnut is sometimes depicted as a human woman, but is most often shown as a lioness with a human body. Her role in the created world is rather uncertain. Egyptologists refers to her as moisture or corrosive moist air, or believed that she served as the upper limit of Duat, the afterlife realm. For certain, however, she acted as the mother of all future gods. Shu, of the other hand, is easier to describe, typically shown as a man with a feather on his head. He could also be depicted as a lion, in the same manner as his sister's wife. In illustrations of the cosmos, he stands with his arms raised, separating the sky from earth in his role as the atmosphere. Like a void within a sealed cave, Shun acted as dry and empty space within the confines of the created world of Atum, annihilating the firm limits of our existence, creating, that's the picture, ensuring the separation between above and below. Shu formed the space in which all life and movement could now exist. The creation of a space in which all life could thrive was not the only result of Shu and Tefnut. Separation from Atum, time also came into being. Shu represents Nenet, the Egyptian concept of cyclical time or never-ending recurrence, such as the rising and setting sun, the annual inundation, the cycle of birth and death, growth and decay. Tefnut, on the other hand, was digit, meaning time at a standstill, covering everything that is remaining and lasting, such as mummies or stones architecture. With physical and temporal space now in existence, the scene was set for the first sunrise and the creation of mankind. The soul of Atum and the first sunrise. The soul. Shu and Tefnut were nurtured in the waters of Nun, regarded as generative and regenerative forces owing into the role of creation. There they were overseen by Atum, Soul Eye, who was set out to follow or to go in search of the twin children by their father. The Eye of Atum, more often referred to as the Eye of Re due to the close association between the two gods, is reoccurring character in Egyptian mythology, as well as representing the solar disk. The god's eye could represent the moon or the morning star, depending on the myth at hand. It acts independently of his own whole, and in his separate forms appears as a manifestation of a goddess, often Hathor, Bastet, or Mut. By sending out his soul eye to search for Shu and Tefnut, Atum initiated the first sunrise. This in itself would not have been possible without Shu creating a void. For this reason, Shu says, I made light of darkness, and it is I who make the sky light after darkness. Still, despite the soul eye appearing as goddess and being separate from Atum, the solar disk nevertheless remained part of him, the sun. Was still Atum, in his disk, or a tomb who goes forth from the eastern horizon, or more succinctly, re-attuned, the visual sign of the Creator's power. For Re, R-E, was the name of the sun god, at his most powerful at midday, and attuned his name in the evening, when in old age. Atum now began his daily journey across the sky and passed through the afterlife realm of Duat at night. Basset, at the first depicted as the lioness, and later as a cat-headed woman, often holding a sceptrum decorated with cats. Basset, probably meaning she, of the omniscient jar, acted as a divine mother and nurse to the king. She was also associated with female fertility and provided protection to pregnant women, as well as the deceased. As the cat of Re, she destroyed the chaos snake Apophis, and like many goddesses, was associated with the eye of Re, leading to her being described as his daughter. Basset's cult center was a Bubasset Telbasta in the Delta, and she was the mother of the god Mahis, who was shown as a lion or a lion-headed man. According to one myth, Mankind, this is the title, Mankind. According to one myth, when time came for Shu, Tefnut, and the eye to return to a tomb, the eye was shocked to discover that she had been replaced with a new solar eye called Glorious One. Oh my God. The unwanted eye became so angry that she cried in rage. Her tears created humanity. To soothe her pain, Atum replaced her on his forehead, where she exercised governance over the entire land. It seems that she transformed into Uraeus, a rearing cobra worn by all pharaohs, that split fire at their enemies of order. Similar myths provide variant tales of the origin of mankind. In one, people are said to be the result of blindness that is behind the god, suggesting that the eye cried so much that she lost her sight. While in Coffin text 80, Atum refers to human beings as having come forth from his eyes. Another myth represents the son weeping because he is alone after his birth and unable to find his mother. These tears created mankind. The gods themselves, on the other hand, are described as offsprings of the sun's smile, or the emerging from the Creator's sweat. It is not derogatory as it may at first seem, as God's sweat was believed to smell of incense. Despite mankind being an accidental consequence of the eye, despair, anger, and sadness, the Creator performed 4 good deeds for their benefit. He created the 4 winds to give the birth of life to everybody. He made the annual Nile flood to ensure that there would always be enough food. Everyone was created equal. Why you want to stop me when you see these energies? other than the king naturally, who existed in his own category. He made every person's heart remember the West, the afterlife. There they could continue their existence in the company of the gods. Indeed, the Creator was not indifferent to his accidental creation. For it is their sake that he created heaven and earth. He stiffed the raging of the waters and created the winds so that their nostrils might live. They are his images who came forth from his body, and it is for their sake that he rises in the sky. For them he created plants and cattle, fowls and fish to sustain them. For their sake he creates daylight, and when they weep, he hearkens, who watches over them who watches over them by night as by day. The teachings of the king of Merikar. Additionally, a hymn to Amun elucidates what this God did for the world's non-human population, stating that he was creator of pasture that keeps the animals alive, who makes it possible for the fish in the river to live and the birds to populate in the air. Amun even cares for the smallest of creatures, and him relates, for it is he who makes it all possible for the mosquitoes to live together with the worms and the fleas, who take care of the mice in their holes and keeps alive the beetles in every tree. So it was not man. So man, who is trying to take over the world, who has tried to oppress his people, Amun is here. God is here. He created us in his own image. And you try to take the truth away from the Egyptian. You try to take their story away and make it yours in a different aspect. Apophis and his origins. Each night from the moment of creation, Apophis, a monstrous snake, 120 cubits, about 63 millimeters to 106 feet long, who represented disorder, attacked the sun god, and fostered rebellion. As the ultimate destructive force in the universe, Apophis was leader of the forces of disorder and had to be repelled from the sun god rays solar barquette by his followers in order to ensure the sunrise and the continued stability of the world. Described as the aurora and lacking nose, ears, and eyes, Apophis nonetheless still managed to possess the evil eye, which gave him the ability to paralyze men and gods. For this reason, kings performed rituals in which they struck the eye of Apophis with a bat, flinging away evil gaze. Wow. I'm reading this along with you guys. This is my first reading of this book, so I'm totally taken back, and I'm so thankful. Despite the Apophis' prominent role in Egyptian mythology, his origins are rather shadowy. There is only one late reference to his creation. In this, he comes into existence from the discard spittle of Neith. From most of Egyptian history, however, there is no reference to Apophis, the prophets coming into being, as if he were regarded as somehow self-created or existence before creation. Apophis stealing out to get us, unlike the snake Apophis who threatened to destroy the sun each day. The asteroid named Apophis represents an intermediate danger to the Earth and Moon, as you'll be happy to learn. The predicted 2004 Earth impact did not in fact happen, but calculations made soon after that non-event showed that impacts were also possible in 2029 and 2036. Luckily, both have since been discounted and extremely unlikely. Interestingly, the asteroid was named Apophis not because of its danger to the survival of the world, but because its discovery were fans of the television series Stargate, which included a character named Apophis in the main villain. Wow. The Next Generation, Shu and Tefnut, endangered the next generation of gods. Gep and Nut as a force. Nut served as the sky vault, transparent barriers between the created world and the surrounding waters of Nun, stopping from crashing down upon the earth. Personified, she is most often depicted as a snake woman holding herself up by her arms and legs, which are either to be envisioned as making contact with the earth at the cardinal points, or as held closely together, causing her body to be a thin path for the sun, moon, and stars to travel along. Quite usually for Egyptians' art, Nut can also be portrayed as face on, looking directly at the viewer, as if you're gazing up into the sky and seeing her staring down at you from high. Gep, the god who became the earth, is normally personified as human, with green skin, sometimes decorated with plants, lying on his side and leaning on his elbow. When standing, he often wears a red crown from Lower Egypt, though this is sometimes replaced with a goose, the hieroglyphic symbol of his name. The myth tells us that at first Gep and Nut embraced each other so closely that Nut was unable to give birth, but Shun forced them apart to allow her children to be born. This neatly explains why the atmosphere separates the earth from the sky. In another myth represented by the Greek historian Plutarch, Gep and Nut were unable to sleep together because Shu held them apart, forcing them to meet in secret. Ray, however, discovered their secret liaison and placed a curse on Nut. This is rendering the incapable of giving birth 360 days of the year, the whole of the year at this early point of creation. The wise god Thoth, whose technical lack of existence in creation at this point we quietly ignore for the moment, offered to help and went to play draughts with the moon. as good as gambling as he is at scribal practice, Thought defeated the moon and won the 70th part of each of her illuminations. For this, he composed 5 days to add to the end of the year, taking the calendar to 365 days and allowing Nut the chance to give birth to her children. This she did on each of the 5 days. The children of Nut and Geb in order in which they were born are Osiris, Horus the elder, Seth, breaking through his mother's side, Isis, and Nephilim. In non-Greek sources, Horus the elder is typically omitted, leaving us with Egypt's tradition. Great Ened, the group of 9 gods who represents the physical creation of the world. Creation complete. The Ened is combined in your Amun's body. Your image is every god joined in your person. You emerge first. You began from the start. The great hymn to Amun. And so the priest of Amun might have told you, what began with Amun yelling in the midst of silence, cultivating with the evolution of the physical world, he is the original one who begot the origin ones and caused the sun to be born, completing himself in Atum, one body with him. Creation was a result of the actions of Amun, and the great development of the world after the moment was a development of him. Similarly, every facet of the universe is manifestation of his hidden force, acting as an independent force, and personalities permeating all existence within our bubble of creation, but all interlocking and unified. These forces are the Netrugu, the gods. Wow. Wow. I am totally taken back by what I'm reading. Genesis is a story of creation of God, and Egyptian story. I mean, whatever resonates with you, whatever you want to follow, whatever you want to believe, whatever. I do not impose anything on anyone. I do not. I am just giving out the message that my Lord, my Father, wants me to give to the collective. I do read the Bible. There's things I have to read the Bible in order to expand, in order to not to be closed-minded, always to expand, always to learn, always able to learn. Whatever I accept in my heart, in my body, and in my feelings, that's something that I would do. This hits home to me. I could relate to this story. I'm just blown away because in some way, somehow, it has touched my heart. And I'm very thankful that I'm giving this opportunity to share it with you. Whew. Wow. I can't wait to go to Egypt. I can't tell you how much love that I have for my Father, for this being who created me in his image. I will never, ever ever serve anyone but him. Ooh, I just feel this story it just really touched me in my soul. Wow. I'm going to continue to read this book. Wow. I could tell you that I have read stories of my ancient ancestors. And I saw pictures of my ancestors that when I started to awaken, I felt their presence. But reading this, I feel it. I feel the energies. I feel the truth. I feel the oneness. The oneness of these divine gods and goddesses, and every day I'm learning. Every day I'm learning. I'm learning every day. Wow. That really touched my heart. And I know as I continue, I'm going to receive more. And it's just going to start opening more of my DNA cells. And being awakened to to the truth that has been hidden from us for a very long time, as it's told, as it states in the book. We are images of our Father. Many went and chose other sides. We separated, but we are all one. We are all Him. We are all Him. But in different cultures, different beings. We all different, but we are all the same. We all came from Him. Why can't we not be thankful? Why can there not be unity? Why can there not be? Why you have to be more power over the next one? No one should be living in oppression.